did less damage this game than I did with my healer. Alright, let's do rated PvP. As a dancer. So there's a couple things I'll say about this from just this small experience. Let's talk about the things I like. I like the smaller amount of buttons. This allows you to focus more on your positioning, more on what's going on in the battlefield, and you don't have to worry about what buttons am I pressing, because it basically combos it all for you. And then you also have the unique conditionals, like if I do this, then this changes, and it makes it more powerful. I like that everybody has a self-heal, so it's not so reliant on just having healers. Everybody has a guard, which reduces all the damage they take, and gives them immunity to CC. Everyone has a purify, which is basically a trinket. And then everybody has a special ability, which could be a stun, it could be a heal, it could be, you know, you name it. It's a special cooldown for that character. Everyone has a limit break or an ultimate, which is a very powerful game-changing ability that you have to build up. But each class feels kind of like their PvE counterpart, but simplified. And we're going to check out their version of Arena. Oh, my picture sucks. They have a healer and we don't. Let's go. Should make... Make the ninja my dance partner. Let's dance. A little friendship power there. Right into it. Pushing whatever this mechanic is. Oh, they added this this game mode in Overwatch. Nice. Okay, every time you die, respawn takes a second longer. The other thing I like about the PvP in this, or just this game in general, is that there are no that dude's dead. Exactly 50%. Let's go. Turned it around on the back of my ultimate. I will add. Oh, we won. Yay. It's a rating system. So, I did not do any damage. Not very good at the game, but it is fun. It is a fun game type. I'll do one more before I jump back over to World of Warcraft. So things I don't like. The battlegrounds are not diverse. They don't have any smaller scale battlegrounds. Everything is always 24 versus 24 versus 24. And they're massive with weird objectives where everybody zergs. And that's just not very fun. The smaller scale, I wish it were more like World of Warcraft, where it was, you know, either 5v5 in a small arena with one life, or 3v3, or even going more the Lost Ark route, where it was you die and you respawn, and whoever, it was just a TDM. That would be awesome too. But the game mode does give you an objective to win. the fights don't last forever. Positioning matters. Using your cooldowns properly matter. Surviving matters. Picking up the little health drops and everything matter. Your picture matters. But I don't feel like it's innately unfair. Whereas in World of Warcraft, there's so many abilities and then there's so much... They've overloaded all their kits so much that it sometimes just feels so completely unfair. Like there is no way, no chance in hell you're going to beat certain things. And the current meta, you're really not going to beat a rogue unless you can really blow up the rogue fast enough and keep their healer CC. But the rogue's good, you're really not going to do much to it. The other thing I like is how fast the queue times are for a solo queue, and that there's no chat. You just use basic chat. The classes do feel very unique in their own playstyle. And they've made abilities very interesting for how limited the number of abilities you have. I mean, technically this ability here is 6 different abilities. How I use Interesting. That hurt. Yeah, that's gonna happen. I had no more dashes. Okay, so I don't like this, wherever that was. Battlefield mechanics like that. Don't put that in competitive games. Don't put in a reason that you lose feels like because you got unlucky in where the battlefield spawned a fucking tornado. They oddly enough have 2 tanks. This is kind of a weird thing to do. Another thing I don't like, unbalanced team compositions, I guess. One team could have a healer. I guess it really isn't because everybody really has a self-heal, and the healers don't really have very much in healing. Like that last match, the white mage only has 2 healing spells. In fact, I have a healing spell. strange mechanic. Yeah, I'm a rising star. Gold. Okay. Did not kill anyone. I did the least amount of damage. But do CC people. And I do buff my team. Again, I'm not the best player. The other thing I like is that I can switch classes. Obviously, in this game, compared to World of Warcraft, your one character can be multiple classes, as you can see. Multiple classes here. So I do like that. I do like that a lot, and because of how simple the toolkits are, you basically know what you're going to do. You have 3 main abilities, and then you have a couple different unique abilities that, you know, are signature to the class. I think World of Warcraft could take from how they do their pruning. Again, it doesn't feel overloaded, and it doesn't feel like I'm trying to guess the 30 abilities that the enemy team has per character times 3, basically, and try to make decisions based off of that. The learning curve is a lot smaller, so I'm able to just jump in as somebody who doesn't really know anything about this aspect of the game. I can just jump in and just play, which is a lot of fun. And you can see that in games like League of Legends, and why League of Legends is so replayable and so easy to jump into, even with this massive learning curve because of positioning and wave management and all the little intricacies of League of Legends. The intricacies of League of Legends, though, is not based so much on class. You have 4 buttons. Then you have your 2 summoner abilities. So that's really it. There is the finesse of attack move, but that's like pressing a mouse click, but it's on your keyboard. World of Warcraft is complicated for complication's sake, and that's the issue that I run into with WoW, is that I can't just jump in and just have a blast. I have to grind countless hours over and over and over again just to get mediocre rating. And there's a reason that most of the player base doesn't PvP. When I started playing WoW in vanilla, PvP was a massive part of the game. People loved the PvP. Yes, there was PvE as well, a lot of PvE. It was mostly PvE, but I felt like the PvP scene and the world PvP scene was a lot more prominent because PvP was a lot of fun, and it was simple because the classes were a lot simpler back then. Paladins were just auto attack. You know, they would just auto attack and judge. There's really not much to it. So their kit was very simple. Even though they had a lot of abilities, their rotations were typically 1 to 2 buttons. making the game very easy when it came to understanding what you were doing. And then you just had to memorize people's cooldowns. Like, okay, cool, he popped wings, or okay, cool, he popped bubble, so I have to wait for the bubble to finish. And there's a possibility, because it's an RPG, that he rolls the dice and it hits, and he gets to one-shot me with Wind Fury shamans. But the rotations were incredibly simple to understand. There was no overloaded kit. Warriors could not charge in PvP or in combat, and that left it to where there were glaring weaknesses in each class. A melee class should have a hard time getting to a ranged class, unless they have certain skills or tricks in their toolkit, like a rogue being able to stealth and not be seen so that they could close the distance before the ranged class even knows that they're there. However, when those melee classes got to those ranged classes, yeah, there was a good chance that that ranged class was just going to be deleted, because the ranged class didn't have a... They couldn't palm every ability and do massive amounts of damage with every ability that they did. The palm abilities were mostly filler, or just a quick little added burst, or, you know, if they're on the move, they need to hit them somehow. But for the most part, it was, if you were a caster, you had to speak words to cast, and if you couldn't speak words to cast, or you got interrupted, then you just didn't cast. And that's what made melee so strong when they closed that distance. Nowadays, everybody has some way to get in the face of everyone, and it's just not the most fun and enjoyable experience. Granted, those battlegrounds that I did on here, they weren't fun. They were just, and it's not the design of the classes themselves that made it not fun. It was the fact that they were just so large, and there's just so much going on. You just run in and you hit buttons until something dies. That's not fun. However, the smaller scale was pretty fun if they changed a few things. If they added some form of arenas in some capacity, and because of how they balance the classes, it wouldn't be like a World of Warcraft arena, but more like a Lost Ark arena, where it was just a TDM, small scale, and you're just trading cooldowns and trying to get that burst. I think that the PvP scene in this game could be fantastic, just because of how simplified the abilities are. World of Warcraft can do the same thing. World of Warcraft doesn't even have to go down to as such a limited number, but they should take PvP, and instead of having the little PvP talent, that the 3 talents that you choose for PvP, they should have a complete separate talent tree, a third talent tree, specifically for when you go into PvP. It disables one talent tree and gives you the PvP talent tree, and then from there they could prune the classes down and balance those abilities separately from the PvE content. And I think that would make the game much more enjoyable. And since World of Warcraft's basically an instance game where you're sitting in town waiting for an instance to pop, it wouldn't feel out of place to give PvPers their game and give PvEers their game. And you could also grow that PvP community, because people do love player versus player combat. They do. That's why we have so many competitive games. That's why AWC is so big. That's why people watch arenas, and even some of the PvE content that World of Warcraft has, like Mythic Plus. People love that competitive nature. But currently, with the way PvP is set up, it's just, It's hard to watch. Don't understand what's going on. I watch big time streamers all the time, and just try and get some idea of, hey, what can I do differently? And it's so confusing and not fun to watch. It's incredibly convoluted. And I do think that the problem with World of Warcraft PvP, at least the problem with competitive World of Warcraft in general, is add-ons. Because of add-ons, the game designers at Blizzard have to take into consideration that there's an add-on for that. They have to take into consideration that they have to design a fight with weak warriors in mind. And then there's some nerd sitting behind a computer who knows how to code, going coding a way to beat every fight without you actually doing the fight. I do think on Blizzard's end, they should take a cue from Final Fantasy here and just remove add-ons completely. Add-ons should not be a part of the game, should never have been part of the game. It is on the developers themselves to make clarity in their own game. If you can't understand your own game without the use of a third-party add-on, then you did not develop that game properly. Period. There's no ands, ifs, or buts. And you could look at an example of Bethesda. Bethesda half develops their games. Skyrim, Fallout 4, Fallout 3, Oblivion, Morrowind. They half develop their games and then kind of lean on their modding community to fix their shortcomings, to fix their bugs, to fix the game breaking stuff, to fix the gameplay to make it fun. And that is part of the joy of a Bethesda game. However, you can't look at their game and say this was designed incredibly well, because they released a game that wasn't good enough to be played without mods. But that's the same concept that I have with World of Warcraft here, is that add-ons, are you really playing the game, or do you just know how to add on better and read the add-ons better? I think that it would keep players much more honest. And what I mean by keeping it honest is in a fighting game, you're keeping it honest if you're throwing certain punches and you're easy to read. Basically, it's like, okay, cool, I know what you're going to do, and keeping it honest, and then you're outplaying them based off of that. In World of Warcraft, they run into the issue or the gambit of I need Omnibar to show me the 35 cooldowns that just popped up in order to even know what the fuck's going on in a PvP match. Instead of being like, okay, I know that class, I know what that class does intuitively, because rogue stealth, kitty punch, like I know what this class generally does. I know what their play style is. I know what their gameplay mechanic will be. So I'm going to try and predict it by reading how that player plays versus how that player is reading add-ons and looking for certain things. I play better with less add-ons because I do listen to those sound cues. Like when I'm trying to fake a kick, I try to find every add-on in the world to show me a kick. And after I just gave up. I've seen other people use add-ons that show them that this person's kick is down. I just gave up, and I ended up just listening for the kick. And once I was able to just tell that distinct thud sound, that every time they missed their kick, then I knew I could cast. So I do think that that add-on should just not be part of World of Warcraft, and I think that's the biggest takeaway from all of this, from playing this game, doing some PvP on this game. The biggest takeaway is that Blizzard should remove add-ons. They should create more clarity in their game, and they should simplify how the classes work in PvP, not necessarily PvE. But they wouldn't have to go as crazy in their PvE content if add-ons were not part of the game. They could actually design fights that kept people honest. With that,